So if you can't explain your code to somebody outside of tech, did you really even make anything? Because real engineering isn't only about just building things. It's about making people believe in what you built. And if they don't get it, does it really even exist? So if you're new, my name is Zazo. I've been coding for over 10 years and I've been working in tech for over 8 years now at this point. And today we're gonna be going into a skill that can really turn you into that 10x next level developer, and it is communication. So first, I'm gonna talk about the problem that most tech people have with communicating. I'm gonna give you some tips in order to improve your communication skills so that you can go level up as a developer. Let's get into it. So first, I wanna tell you a little bit of story about something that happened at my job and kind of where I really came up with this idea of this video. So basically what I do is I create software and systems for a marketing analytics team, and I do it internally so that everybody can use and kind of, do so on and so forth. So we have my team, which is marketing analytics, and then we also have our enterprise technology team, which they handle a bunch of enterprise technology, and mine is very specific to marketing and the analytics team specifically. So anyway, we were in a meeting, and with marketing analytics, we also work with a lot of non-tech stakeholders, and we were all in a meeting, and we had somebody from technology who was explaining this very good system or automation that they built. I understood it, of course. However, the non-tech stakeholders had no idea on what he was actually talking about, which brought up a good point, because over time what I saw is the system that he actually built, he was not actually getting credit for, because he wasn't able to explain it clear enough to where they actually knew that this new system that was essentially helping their marketing communications, they didn't know that he built it because he did not explain what he did well enough. This is a big problem with a lot of tech professionals, and this actually holds a lot of them back from reaching those higher positions and those promotions. Communication is key in order to actually get across what you are doing as your work. So this is the thing, you get really good at tech, you get in the industry, you're a little green, you get good, and then you start speaking this language that nobody understands. You explain your app's architecture, data pipelines, the deployment flow, but your stakeholders themselves have no idea what you're saying. Explaining Kafka, Kubernetes, and Docker to non-tech stakeholders should never be a thing, because that is just plain gibberish to them. And you're not being misunderstood because they're not smart. It's because you're not actually translating your tech talk into layman's terms. They come from a different background and they are not equipped with all the jargon that you're using. All this different type of stuff about how you set up the backend and all this different type of things, they don't understand any of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of give you some key details and some key points and things that you can practice while you're on the job, or even while you're working on any type of projects, in order to really get your point across, and how to explain things simpler and clearer so that you get the credit for what you're doing and you can start leveling up. So I'm gonna be honest, as tech people, we get really emotional about all these different frameworks, tools, and different things that we're using. Newsflash for you, when it comes to clients, managers, or even your users, they do not care how it works. They care why it matters. They want to know the actual problem that you're solving, what impact it makes, and not which library you use to do it. They need to know that it works, they work sufficiently, and why it works for what problem you're solving. Now that we know what the problem is, and we know that they don't necessarily care about all these different frameworks and things that we've used to make this whole thing happen, I'm gonna give you some tips right now in order to make these things clear and be able to get your points across into what your application does without going too much in the weeds. So the thing that I like to do is use analogies. I literally use analogies for damn near everything when I'm explaining anything that I'm doing. Now, I tailor these analogies based on who I'm speaking to, so you'll always have to know your audience. If it's a complete non-tech stakeholder, you want to be very careful in the analogies that you're using. If you're speaking with a little bit more of a tech person, you can relate it to different things depending. So for example, if I'm speaking to a data scientist, they may know about ML, machine learning, and they're going to know about statistics. So I can always say things like, hey, I made an algorithm that is going to do such and such and group these different things. And you can compare it to something like maybe like a k-means clustering, because they already have that reference point. Just an example. But if you're talking in layman's terms, you want to really use examples or analogies that are an everyday type of scenario. So for example, I always use this waiter restaurant type of analogy, right? So if I were to explain something like an API, I would explain it as a waiter, right? An API essentially takes your order to the kitchen and brings you back the food. That's what an API is. It's the communication between the front and the back end. So you got your client or your customer that's at the table, and you have the kitchen that's in the back, right? Your waiter is your API that is able to take your request from your customer, send it to the back gets the food, you get the food and give it to the customer. That's one of the clearest ways that I like to explain things like APIs. You want to keep it in something that is an everyday type of situation. Something like databases. I like to think of them as, or explain them as, filing cabinets, right? There's different filing cabinets for different types of things. That's what a database is. So the second thing that I like to do is I like to focus on the outcome first. What am I trying to do with this? The details second. If you get too down into the details, you can lose your audience very, very easily. So instead of saying something like, I optimized the server's cache with Redis, sounds very techy. For somebody that is a tech, you know what that means. However, try something like, we made the site load 3 times faster by using Redis to store key data temporarily, right? Things like that. Start with the outcome. What was the outcome? As soon as they hear that outcome, then they're tuned in. We made it load 3 times faster. That's gonna get their attention. How did we do it? By using Redis, so on and so forth. Another thing that you can do right away, if you have non-tech friends, practice with your non-tech friends. Test your message. If your friend who is not tech does not get it, you need work. If they get it, you nailed it. So here's the truth. And here's the key takeaway from all of this. The better you communicate, the more valuable you are. Like I said in the beginning, you do this great work, but can't communicate how great it is, no one's gonna know you did it. Therefore, promotions, all of these different types of things, you're just gonna get blown by because they don't know what you're actually doing because you're not able to articulate what it is in simple layman terms. The best developers, they don't just build, they tell a story behind what they actually built. And the people who can bridge the gap between tech and business, those are the ones that lead and those are the ones that go to the top. So I have a challenge for you. Like the video first. In the comments, try to give me a one-liner on what you are currently working on in the simplest terms you know how. Try using some of the stuff I have in here, like an analogy or something of that sort. Leave that in the comments as well and subscribe to the channel. Love, peace, and chicken grease. I'll see you on the next one. Level up.